Okay, welcome to the March meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission. My name is Greg Young. I'm the chair of the commission. And this open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely. First went to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on July 16th, 2022. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Clark.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Diane Gouldner. You're muted, Diane. We'll come back to you. Todd Helwig.
Here.
Okay. Diane, you're muted. So you see little red microphone with a slash through it?
Bottom left corner.
Bottom left corner, just click on that. Okay, well, Diane's present, but not
Wait.
accounted for. Oh, what?
There,
Okay, perfect.
here.
All right, don't touch that button anymore today. Just
Yes, sir.
okay. Staff, when I call your name, please respond to the affirmative. Vinnie Bignali,
Yes.
Owen Jones.
Here, yes.
Very good.
And Melanie Rich.
And Melanie Rich.
You always forget about me, but I'm here.
Can't forget you, Melanie. Thank you. Some ground rules. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. For items with public comment. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will decide on each. I will call each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. All right. You ready, Diane? Have you got your reading?
I am. There will be a meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission on Thursday, March 23rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'm skipping the next paragraph. The meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Northborough Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance Bylaw. The first meeting is a request for a determination of applicability for 112 West Main Street, map 62, parcel 55, by Coleman House Limited, seeking permission to work within 25 feet of a wetland to remove 4 pine trees and conduct regular maintenance trimming within 2 feet of a patio fence. The next one is request for a determination of applicability for 76 Lincoln Street, map 75, parcel 40, by Lincoln Street Elementary School, Town of Northborough, seeking permission to construct a universal access outdoor learning space and story walk problem. That's it.
Good. Thanks, Diane. Okay, meeting minutes from February. Diane, you and Justin and Kelly would be exempt from voting here if you were absent. So it's really myself, Dan, and Todd. Any questions, comments, or concerns with the meeting minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second,
Seconded. Roll call vote. All in favor, Dan Clark,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. First item on the agenda, we've got the 2 NOIs continued for Buena Vista, and that I believe is Vito, correct? Vito Colonna? Okay. There you are, Vito, you're muted.
Okay, there we go.
Perfect. Perfect. Welcome.
All right, good evening.
Okay, so continuation from last month. I think, Vinny, you were looking for some data from Vito based on comments at the last meeting, right?
Yes, he was revising the site work, and I received them yesterday, but I haven't had a chance to go through them formally. And oh yes, we have 3 to vote. I'm sorry, you're good.
Yeah,
Just
I
thinking
apologize.
since-
It was last minute, so, but I didn't expect you to have time to go through all of them. There's a lot there.
Yeah, it
So we
looks good.
will
though.
So we'll push this, we'll continue this Vito to next month.
Yeah, unless
which
there's
is-
some other, if we have to, that's what we do,
We're April 10th is our next meeting, so it's really just a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. That works out pretty good.
'Cause we pushed
Did
this one
anyone have
back.
Anything extra to add? Any questions, anything like that? I don't know if there's anything that anyone thought of since last time.
Do you know if, I know that is the property owner, Mr. Beekman, right?
Yeah, there's a,
I don't see him. Oh, Heckman, here he is.
yeah, Ron Heckman. He's
Yeah.
the applicant.
Do you know if he ended up doing a site walk with some of the butters?
He did meet with some of them. If he's there, he could, if you want to transfer him over, he could probably.
Yeah, let me bring him in.
He did talk with some of them. I think maybe all of them, but he talked with most of them anyway.
You want to bring him in? Here you go.
All right, Ron, are you there? Oh, there we go.
Do we hear him?
Oh, there
Hello,
we
we
go.
can hear you.
All right, Ron?
Hello.
Oh, okay, there we go. So
Hello.
Ron, I don't know if you had any, you want to just go over if you had any talks with any of the abutters and what's going on with them?
I have spoken with 4 of the abutters, and I mean, I think we're on good terms with them.
Okay,
So I think any fears that they had about, potential water in their yards or, tree clearing, we're gonna ribbon all the trees that we feel necessary that are gonna have to be cut for the construction. And before we cut anything, I told them all that I'll walk it with you. And if you have a problem with any of the trees, let me know and we'll do the best we can to leave them. So, I mean, I want to leave as many trees as possible. That's our intention.
Good. That's good news.
okay.
All right. Any questions from the commission, or you better just digest the changes that have been supplied, right, over the next week or so?
Yes, it seemed like a complete package. I just didn't have a chance to get through it.
Okay, and we need a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
For a second, seconded by, was that Dan?
Yeah.
All right, let's roll call. Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
And that was for both lots 1 and lot 2.
Lot 1 and Lot 2, Buena Vista.
Yep.
Continued to April 10th.
Great. All right. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Super. Thank you, Vito. Okay. We have two RDAs. First one's for 112 West Main Street, which is the Coleman House. Anybody on for that one?
Patrick Blake, I think it might be.
I've got Patrick Blake here. I'll bring you in, Patrick, panelist.
He's there.
I don't quite see him yet.
Uh,
Mr. Blake, you with us?
It's muted.
All right, while he's getting going, if I can share my screen, I will bring up the plan.
Yep.
All right, do you see the window or do you see my whole desktop?
I can see the top 2/3 of it. There you go. That's a pretty good view.
Yeah, I'm trying to move things around, but the directions for Zoom are in the way. Oh, there it goes. Okay. There we go. All right. If Patrick is there, he can start walking us through it.
I don't.
All right, I can do
I
it.
don't see him. Yeah.
All right. Well, basically, this is the building here in Brown. In the backyard, they proposed and constructed, they got an approval for a patio in this area here where my cursor is.
A
The
couple years
walkway.
ago, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And along that back of the patio is a white fence. And they're asking to cut the brush from climbing on the back of that fence is one portion of this. The other portion of the request is that they have 4 pine trees that they planted back in 1996 that have grown to be pretty sizable. And they're asking, or they're taking them down. This green line is the wetland edge. It's very close to the property or very close to the work areas. And so it's within the 25-foot area. So that's why I asked him to come in to do a request for determination.
Because they started the work ahead of time, Vinny, right? They
Yeah.
started doing the work without coming to us, and we received a comment from somebody who saw what was going on, and you spoke.
Can you hear
to
me now?
We can hear you now. Yes, we can't see you.
Oh.
We can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, it's Patrick Blake from the Coleman House. I apologize. I was trying to get my microphone to work.
No worries. No worries. Thanks for joining us. We're just going through the background here. So, Vinny, you spoke with the landscaper and told him he had to stop what he was doing, or
Yes, and he was good. He stopped what he was doing. He didn't have a permit. He never contacted me about taking the trees down. And in this case, since they were so close to the wetland, we probably would have had him do a request for determination. So they got started, and I can share my screen with a picture of the current conditions and what it was like when I was out there. They cut the limbs and we're ready to drop the trees, but they've left them there now. So they've been sitting there for almost a month or so, waiting for this meeting for your decision. I don't think we're really going to do much to save them, but it's a request for determination so that we can put a little erosion control on the back area there and then allow them to continue the work. And that's what
Yeah,
he's requesting.
Yeah, I actually planted the trees myself back in 1998, and I was unaware how quickly they would have grown. And what happened was they grew to where the branches were actually touching the windows there. And I was honestly concerned for the residents where, we get snowstorms, wind and everything else. So unfortunately, I had our landscaper, I asked him to cut them down because I was, like I said, I was afraid for, the tree coming into the building. I was kind of unaware that, it was really that far into the wetlands. For that, I do apologize.
So this is the area where the 4 trees are proposed to be taken down. And then it actually worked, good. And this is the picket fence or the fence that's the patio on the left, wetlands kind of right at the bottom of that slope. And this is wetlands, got a lot of invasives. We got the wild rose and the bittersweet and raspberries, which aren't so bad, but they're all coming up. So he's been maintaining this 2 to 3 foot space just to have a maintenance person go in there and cut it. And he wants to continue to do that. So while he was coming for the trees, I said, let's just make sure that we get all this documented so you get the board, commission's review of it and their consideration of whether it's something they're allowing or something they would want to stop.
How much more cutting does Mr. Blake want to do with what we're looking at right here?
I don't want to do any more. I want to keep it the way it is, actually, just to maintain just a 2-foot buffer, just so that the bittersweet, what was happening was the bittersweet and everything was just growing in between the fence and taking over.
What's there in the growing season? Where that's stripped, does anything grow there?
No, it's just grassed area, and most of it, like I said, as you can see, the bittersweet and the different types of viney stuff to the right there, they just encroach and actually start growing in between the fence. So I just asked the landscaper to clean it up.
Yeah, I didn't look to see what the herb layer was in that area.
On the left side of the fence, it is bark mulch. I know that.
You're looking to maintain the back area there roughly to where the rocks are. No further,
That's it.
not much further beyond the rocks.
No, not at all. Just not further than the rocks at all. Actually, I could even keep it 1 foot, just not even 2.
Second piece would be taking down those 4 trees, the 4 pines.
Yeah, it's either
Yes.
4 or 5. I don't remember which.
I think it's 4. It's
Okay.
4.
Now, how far are they off the wetland line?
The back ones are about 20. This one here is about 20 feet, and these 2 are 25, 30 feet. And this one is a little closer because the wetland comes a little bit closer in this area here. But again, this area is a lot of bittersweet growing. You can see it growing up this tree that's dead as well. That's what that machine was there to take down that one as well. But they didn't request that in their request for determination. So we're just looking at these pines.
Okay.
Are you
Thoughts? Go ahead, Dan.
are you leaving the stumps? Not that height, but flush with the ground.
I was gonna cut them right down flush to the ground and leave them.
Yeah, thoughts, questions, concerns?
No, I mean they're gonna die, so you might as well cut them flush with the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally okay with that, cutting them flush to the ground. And in terms of behind that fence, I mean, nothing beyond 1 foot is great. I mean, if you want to do a 1 foot, just keep it, that 1 foot corridor. I'm okay with that. No pesticides, right, Mr. Blake?
No, not at all.
No other concerns, questions, or comments?
Nope.
Okay. So then we need to close the hearing, Vinnie, right?
Yep.
So let's close the hearing. We need a motion.
Move to
Move that
close the
we-
hearing.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The hearing is closed. So we're looking for, I believe this would be a negative determination. Any requirements? Maybe not exceeding a 1 foot corridor would be one, Vinny?
We can make
And-
that. He requested 2 and we can make it as a 1 foot.
And you could live with 1 foot, Mr. Blake, right? I think you said you could do that.
Oh, absolutely. It's just so somebody can walk back there and trim it when need be. 1 foot is plenty.
And those 4 trees can come down, as long as they're cut, flush and the roots are left.
Absolutely.
Anything else anybody can think of?
No, that sounds great.
I'd move that we issue the negative determination for 112 West Main Street based on with those conditions.
Second,
Seconded by Dan. Roll call. Dan Clark,
yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes,
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Very good, Mr. Blake.
Okay, thank you very much, board members. Have a wonderful
Before you
evening.
go, Mr. Blake, just you are so close to the wetlands back there. It's so sensitive that pretty much anything you do back there, you should probably give Vinny a call on.
Yes, yes. Like I said, I planted those trees 23 years ago. I actually was part of that process, and I probably should have known back then, honestly. I forgot all about it.
No problem. Thanks for coming in.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
too.
thank you.
Okay, Lincoln Street Schools, our next one here. Let's see, that would be, I got a couple hands up here. Let me see here. Bring in Kelly Strobel.
Oh, abutters.
Yep. I missed that one. Kelly, I'm bringing you as a panelist. We should see you momentarily. Oh, we got some latency here. I don't know why that is. Maybe that's just the way it works. Kelly, can we hear you yet?
Yes.
Oh, I hear you.
So this is Kelly and Chuck Strobel, 30 John Edward Drive
Yes,
on the backside of Cold
Yep.
Harbor Brook.
we know it well.
Yep, and I am the abutter that called Vin.
Okay.
And I don't know whether these comments are of any value now. You've taken your vote. We did raise our hand when you asked for commentary. so-
Yeah, no, I missed that one. That's my issue.
So just a couple of quick things.
Sure.
We have been in this property at 30 John Edward Drive since that the original building was torn down in the current facility that is there now.
What was there originally? Just curious.
We moved into this house in 1991, 1990, and probably 3 or 4 years thereafter, maybe 5. The original building was torn down and the building you see there today was put in. And it is quite a large building footprint for the lot size that was discussed in all the planning board meetings that we all attended. I don't think it's relevant to get into that now, but our concern over the trees was twofold. One is obviously we are well aware of the sensitivity of the wetland areas that abut our backyard. So that's the reason I called. But those trees also provide a lot of obstruction to that building and mitigate, what is a lot of exterior lights back there and shrink the overall facade of the building to us as an abutter. So I'm wondering why those pine trees, my first question would be, why were those pine trees not trimmed and taken down completely? Because I heard Mr. Blake and he said the branches were approaching the building. Well, to me, that sounds like the tree should have been trimmed and should have been trimmed in this occasion as well. But rather the whole tree is taken down. That's my first comment.
Thank you.
I don't have an answer, man. Do you know why the the trimming was done to begin with? I know he said it was a safety hazard apparently for the building.
Mr. Blake is not here anymore.
Right.
Okay, yeah. He said that the branches were getting close to the building, which does appear. So it looks like there's some kind of growth on the siding as well. So it appears that that is the case. The option of just cutting the branches that were close, I don't know why they chose to take them down the whole way. They could have just trimmed off the side branches. But when I got out there were no branches left, as you can see in the photo. That was the picture that I took.
They started going ahead anyway. Yeah.
Right. So in the perfect world, we could have had them just trim it. But in a situation, I think where we're at now is it's not an option. You can't bring those trees back.
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any options of having a request to have something replanted there?
Well, we could ask him to do that. It's up to him. At this point in time, if he refuses, that's his option to do that. But I'm not sure what the benefit would be on that. We have to plant something pretty big.
Well,
Just
and I guess-
because it's close to the buffer zone and the roots.
Right. But
Yeah,
what the commission had asked for was for the roots to stay. So he's cutting it flush to the ground. So the stability of the soil and the ground is going to remain. The question you're asking about putting another tree in there, that is a possibility. And they may be willing to do that. He's been very agreeable and very cooperative. So that is something that's a possibility. I'm pretty sure he'll change his tree type. He'll put something that won't be getting as wide, but that's something I can ask him about when I prepare the document, the determination.
Okay, thank you.
Be
Thank you.
appreciated.
Okay, is that it? You good?
Did you have a second?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm
right.
going to bring in Karen Pentazis. Karen, I promoted you to panelist. Karen, can you hear us?
Yes, Greg, this is Bill Pantazis. How are you?
I'm well, Bill. How are you?
Good, good. Just have a couple of comments. I'm a direct abutter. I'm 10 Mulberry Lane.
Yep.
So from my kitchen where I'm sitting right now, looking out, I can see the whole building. So it's in the beginning when they built the building, they had promised to put trees all along the back edge. So as a buffer, so we wouldn't see the building. That was the original agreement back in I believe it was 1996. They never planted the trees. Those 4 trees that he cut down, he had planted in, I thought it was 97, but I guess it's 98. I'm a landscaper, and I know that the stumps themselves that are there 20 feet away, there's no way that the branches were touching the building at all. Because if you come to our house, we have big white pines all along the driveway, and they don't reach out 20 feet. So I think he just went ahead and just cut them because he didn't want them there.
Well, he did go ahead and cut them because as you know the history here, then he got a phone call.
Right.
And when we went out there, what we saw were those 4 trees had been sheared off.
Right.
Off, so. Okay. Well, I think Vinny's going to try to have a conversation with him, and like you say, he has been pretty cooperative with us in the past. See if he's interested, maybe putting some trees back there.
Right. I mean, it's hard to put trees in the back now because where the fence is now, it's a slope that goes all the way down to the water.
Right.
No, and the fence is within probably 10 feet of the water line.
Yes.
It's close. I'm not
Yeah,
sure it's 10 feet, but it's close. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the little white fence that we had in the photo, right?
The vinyl, which I can see right now from my kitchen window.
So if I may, I think there's two different issues. From a Conservation Wetlands Protection Act, I think if he wanted to take down the trees, he applied for a determination to do that, admittedly after the fact. But generally speaking, if you want to take down a few trees, we generally give you the permission to do that. I think we would have done that here. If the argument is that he's in violation of the original permit for the building, that he had to put up trees, then that's something you should take up with the building inspector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more
And-
questions, Bill?
Right.
No,
And
no,
actually,
I-
I'm sorry, just to follow up on that, when I looked through the file for the background on this, we have a plan for the building. There were no other trees shown on the plan that was submitted for the Conservation Commission other than these trees that were the pines that were planted. And he's gotten his certificate of compliance based on that order of conditions. So he's been okay with the Conservation Commission.
Right. I know he did plant those 4 trees, but from my understanding, he was supposed to plant trees all the way along the back of the building. Not just those 4 trees when we went to the meetings back then.
Yeah, probably something more along the terms of arborvitae or something like that. They would give you a block.
Yeah, anything that's, I mean, right now you can see, I mean, we see the whole building and then at night the lights are on in the back and you know what I mean? It's like an eyesore, but
Yeah, well, I think, but as Vinny said, it's, or as Todd said, it's really a building inspector issue. If it's
Right.
not, was as built should have been, so.
Could I interrupt, Greg?
You sure can, Diane.
I'm wondering if in their conversation with other people in the town hall, and especially the building inspector, if they could not ask to have the lights either dimmed or turned down or lowered in some way. Because, I mean, this is something that happens all the time. I mean, things change, so you don't always have the privacy that you had before.
Right.
And also in maybe replacing the trees.
look, thank you, Diane. If you came to my house and stood in the driveway and looked over, you can see what I'm talking about.
I actually have been in your driveway. I don't know if you remember it from a while back. And I don't remember seeing the school. I guess maybe we were focused more on the wetlands than the school itself.
Oh,
But
the septic system, right?
I believe something like
Yep.
that, yeah.
Yep, the
Okay,
septic. Yeah,
so,
That was also.
but I
during the
understand
day,
your
right?
feelings.
So,
I mean, you don't want to look at a big blank space.
right. Well, every time we get a letter in the mail, it's like, oh, here we go again. What's going, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
bad feelings, you know what I mean?
yes.
It sounds like your path from potential remediation is the building department.
Okay, yep. I will, Greg. I'll contact them.
The other thing too, Bill, is I know that on other applications we've seen, and the planning board's seen it too, is there are now different types of lights out that actually they don't provide the same glare. They may be looking, you can rotate them or something. There are some new bulbs or lights that are out. Maybe that's a solution too.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your concerns. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Okay. So let's see here. House cleaning. Just doing some. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, that was my miss for not seeing those hands up, but I don't think that would have changed the vote personally. Lincoln Street School, that I believe is
Justin Lowwater.
Justin Lowwater. Justin, I'm bringing you in as a panelist.
And I'm going to try to share my screen to bring up the plan.
We've talked about this for a few months, so I think we have an idea of what's going on. Justin, you with us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you. Perfect. All right, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Vinny and you've done a little bit of work and you actually moved your location quite a bit.
We did.
So I guess this is for an RDA, for a determination of applicability here. So why don't you tell us what's going on?
So Vinny and I had talked about just putting together a couple of, just a little bit of background. So, kind of bear with me. So last spring, a group of educators submitted a grant application to the Northborough Education Foundation for an outdoor learning space and a story walk. If you're not familiar with story walks, they are kind of like outdoor walkways where you take a children's book and you kind of disassemble it, put it into like a display area, and kids can kind of walk through and look at the book that way. We wanted to do that on the grounds of Lincoln Street School. There's a ton of evidence that increasing time outside is good for kids, as it is for all of us. They've definitely become a much needed resource as far as outdoor learning spaces have become much needed resources for students. And there's tons of studies about the benefits to these kinds of spaces. Obviously during COVID, when we were trying to get kids outside, even within the school setting, unfortunately, Lincoln Street did not have a space that was even though we have an indoor or kind of a courtyard that's within the footprint of the building, it's very difficult to get our kids outside during those times. But again, there's tons of evidence about why these spaces are good. We initially were going to put this space out in the northeast corner, adjacent to the Coldbrook Meadow. When Vinny and I looked a little bit closer at this, to be able to make that ADA compliant, we would have had to put a cut curb, where he's showing, and then a walkway that would have been very expensive to be able to construct. So we decided to kind of shift the project and put it down here where it's in this purple space, which still has a great viewpoint of that kind of marshland there, much closer to the footprint of the building. You're obviously close to that kind of back driveway that's not used as much. It's only supposed to be used for emergency vehicles and district vehicles. So, again, the idea behind having an outdoor space, I help run a therapeutic elementary school program, so kids with significant emotional behavioral needs. And so, kind of getting those students outside to do all kinds of different activities, in addition to the fact that in that area, either area that we could have, kind of identified, doing some science lessons about, physical science lessons, being able to go out and watch the birds, kind of listen to nature sounds, things like that. And again, knowing that those things would be very, beneficial for our students. Currently, so the new space that we moved closer would be more, would fit within the budget that we have through the Northborough Education Foundation. It's currently kind of open, but the idea would be that we would potentially plant some trees and some bushes on the kind of western edge of that space to block it from the parking lot. Again, that's a parking lot that's generally used by our district employees. The story walk, we would, instead of having it on a pathway, we would just follow the natural path of the driveway that's already constructed. So there's no ADA needs there. So again, we could put the posts in right along the edge of the driveway, and students could exit the building, walk the pathway down to the learning space, or you could do it in either direction. So again, initially thinking like we'd do a really big project, and now thinking like we're going to kind of keep it, kind of a little bit more contained and closer to the school grounds. Obviously, Vinny and I have worked very closely together to make sure that all the conservation and ADA regulations are followed. There is a local landscaping company, L&S Supply, which is owned by Pete Fallon. He's a current Lincoln Street, he's a parent of a current Lincoln Street school student. And he's worked with me to kind of look at the plans and identify the costs of construction. He's prepared to, if this is approved, he's prepared to start construction on it with the hope that it would be done, this spring, and to be able to be used, by students before the end of the school year. And again, my hope is that with the reduced cost and some of the other things that we've changed about it, that we can, kind of add a few things. Initially, the idea was to just put some tree stumps out for kids to use. There's all kinds of stuff all kinds of companies that sell things for outdoor learning spaces. So if we have some of that additional funding that we saved from some of the construction that we initially proposed, we can kind of make this space a little bit more inviting for students. And so, yeah, we're just hoping that that's something that the Conservation Commission, agrees with where the placement is, and that it's a good use.
And to follow up on Justin's, I'm sorry, just to follow up on that.
Yep.
The commission's issues are, where I've got shown the yellow lines are the 100-foot buffer zone. There's a wetland up in this area here, so there's a 100-foot buffer zone. So this end of the story walk will probably have about 4 posts put in place, a stake with a piece on there to mount the story page on, and then it's all upland here. And then as you get down to this area here, again, the yellow line is the 100-foot buffer zone from this wetland. It's down in this area here. And yellowy orange line is the 200-foot zone from the stream. I think it's Cold Harbor Brook in this area. So that's a 200-foot zone. So, and it's from this, you can kind of see it on the aerial photograph back there. It's a braided stream back there. So that's the jurisdiction of this work, is probably 80 to 100 feet away from the resources there in this area. The closest they would get would be planting 2 deciduous trees in this area here, which are again 75 feet away. And then for the work on the story walk, this distance is about 65 feet. I think I measured at for the closest post to the wetland in that area. And then he has a little more detailed plan of what he's proposing to do. Those 2 deciduous trees. The drainage from this area flows down to this corner, and then currently flows down in this area here to a swale into the stormwater treatment facility. Yes, before a couple of years ago, they did an extensive stormwater treatment plan and had to build this and then rebuild it again. I've heard some of the.
This one was a good one. The one that caused trouble is the one closer to Lincoln Street.
Oh, farther over. Okay. So this one, they did do some, this is a grass waterway, grass swale, which treats the water very well. And this area with the stone dust isn't going to run. They're building it with a flat slope, so there's not going to be a lot of runoff with an edge. I think that's coming up. Yeah, so this is what we're looking at with compacted stone dust with a log barrier, so handicap wheelchairs wouldn't go down into the swale, into the ditch. There's going to be a couple of breaks in the log barrier to allow drain to flow through. And it'll flow down here, and there's enough slope to go from the corner of the parking lot where the water tends to pool all the way down to the beginning of the grass swale. So that was the technical end.
Yep. It always helps to have the conservation agent help you design what you're going to present.
Vinny did the hard work here.
Good. Any questions from the commission?
Easy questions, please.
How many posts are you going to put up? Or does that depend on the story you're going to use?
It's about the kind of organization that started these things. They usually do about 30 posts. Children's books, you basically do 1 page per post. So we'll, it's likely that the funding that we got from NEF allowed part of the proposal we put together. We wanted to buy a succession of 3 books as part of the process. So we would look at those books, identify how many of those posts we need, but it'd probably be around 30. And so depending on how many there were, we would kind of separate those posts out, to kind of fill that story walk space.
What are the posts made of? Is this all metal?
I'm thinking wood instead of metal.
Okay.
Yep.
How long are they supposed to last? I mean, these storybooks themselves, if you have them outdoors like that.
Yeah, so they suggest that you rotate them every couple of months just because of the way that the weather will impact the print. But you're supposed to, you know, there's a lot of different ways to mount them. They suggest using, you know, thick paper with lamination. There's very expensive posts. Vinny and I were sending emails back and forth. At some point when money's not a concern, I'd love to put like kind of permanent, you know, again, if we were able to get some kind of funding for that. But they're, you know, a couple $100 per post, which, you know, is, you know, clearly outside of our means. But, you know, different places, you know, I live in Southborough. There's one at our Southborough library that's got permanent posts in it. And they must have spent, you know, a lot of money on those. These would be more like we would have the wooden posts kind of, you know, driven in. And then it's likely that we would do some lamination on top with, you know, kind of like an edge to it so that it would hold the paper. It would hold the book up. Or the paper up, and that's something that I would work on with our librarian, you know, on staff.
You all set, Diane?
Yes.
Any more questions? Any commissioner questions?
And nothing really from my end on the design of it and the location. I think it's great. Just you mentioned when the students are out here, there's not much activity as far as cars go, things like that, right? I mean, just any time I see kids that close to a parking lot and driveway and things like that, I just think of safety, bollards, guardrail, you know, things like that from a protection standpoint. But
yeah, I think it's a good question. I think that the idea, knowing that we have, you know, a certain window of time where cars are not coming in and out of the parking lot, this, you know, if you kind of go further out, the front door to our building is, you know, much further, you know, kind of to the west there. Cars do come along this way. And so part of what, you know, part of what we would probably do is to put some cones out if students were out there as part of the process. When I went and talked to the folks at Melican, they put together an outdoor space a couple of years ago. And they have like kind of a sign up that they're, you know, the faculty members can use. So if their class wants to go use that space, it's kind of, you know, the idea is that you sign it out. And so I think what we would do is we would start it, you know, 15 or 20 minutes after morning drop off as far as the signups. So you would know you'd get all of the kids that, you know, students are supposed to be in the building by 8:50. So we'd probably start at like 9:15, allowing, you know, allowing teachers to get out there and use it. The other thing I would say is that even this week in that driveway area, again, we don't really have an outdoor space that's used consistently, but in that driveway area, the first grade students this week, I noticed and talked to one of the teachers, they were doing a science lesson on the angle of the sun. And so they went out and drew shadows and put kind of, you know, at, you know, 10 o'clock in the morning. And then they went back out after lunch to see how the angle of the sun had shifted. And so I was talking to that teacher about the fact that it'd be great, you know, in the future when if we have this space that we can, you know, kind of encourage those things. But again, the good thing is that I think most people who drive into the school parking lot are usually people that are affiliated with the school and are looking out for students. We have, you know, at that same back door, you know, close to where that basketball court is, we have, you know, our gym is here and kids walk across that driveway to go into the gym. Again, the gym teacher oftentimes put cones out just to let people know that people are, you know, out there. But that driveway, it's got a sign that says, you know, emergency vehicles only. So it's not supposed to be public, you know, people, you know, the public driving through that area. But it's definitely something that we would look to obviously maintain the safety of the students. And they'd only be out there with, obviously, with teachers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of making sure we kind of schedule it so that kids aren't out there during those pickup and drop off times, and also probably putting some cones out just to kind of, again, alert drivers to the fact that there are students outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, when they go into an elementary school, you know, they're kind of, you know, hypersensitive to potentially kids or anything like that. But I just encourage anything you can do to just improve the safety. I think cones, things like that are a good idea. I just always get nervous when they're close to a parking lot and they're,
of course,
the little ones, you know, in the K-5 grades. So, but yeah, I think it's a great idea.
More questions from the commission?
I do, Greg. You just labeled the trees as deciduous trees. What were you thinking of? Which kind? What type of tree?
We were looking for something for the wildlife, but deciduous just because that's on the south side. So that's where the sun's coming in.
Mhm.
So we want to have sun in the springtime before the leaves pop out, but then when it gets hot and the leaves are out there, it'll give a little shade to the outdoor learning space. So we want to try to get both of those aspects in there. But they're also going to have displays for birds, for trying to attract the birds. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of red-winged blackbirds from that marsh that's right there. But they're going to try to get other birds that whatever have songbirds or whatever it might be. And if you have a lot of knowledge about birds, so if you know what trees to use, that might be helpful as well.
I'd have to go look in one of my books, but I think anything with small fruit on it, like wild cherry, something of that nature works. I don't know. I guess you could. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but that would be something I could send you a list.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we're not going to be starting construction for a little bit, so there's time to put that together. And Justin, did you have any discussions with the landscaper about his thoughts on what to use?
No, we hadn't talked about trees to this point, but I think again, anything that anybody has, as far as recommendations, that was something that Vinny and I talked about. And it was my understanding that at one point there was a Boy Scout kind of project that they built back, like a kind of a boardwalk out that way to do, with the idea of looking at birds. So again, something that we'd love to introduce for our kids, because it's definitely not something that is in our current curriculum at Lincoln Street.
Do you remember that, Diane? You're our veteran here.
I do sort of, but I can't tell you the fullness of it. And I think I don't recall that it ever was completed. May have been.
I've talked to a lot of teachers, and it's funny because we talk a little bit about how recess rules have changed in the past, 30. There's some teachers at Lincoln Street that have been there for over 30 years. But they would tell me when we would go back there and look at this space, some of the people that were involved in this, they would say the kids would go out at recess and go rolling down that hill towards the brook. And sometimes they would try to find, sometimes kids would be kind of like, soaking wet, coming back in from recess. And I just think about today, in today's world, how recess has changed. We're all inside of a fence. We got to keep our eyes on everybody. But it's just, it's a different world.
Yes. Too bad, because I think the kids had a lot more fun when it was not so confined.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think this is trying to get as close to as we can to, and we do, like I said, we have a courtyard. I think for ease of maintenance, they decided to put like AstroTurf in there. So again, it's a natural space. We do have a little bit of a garden in that area, but it's definitely something that having the kids outdoors in an actual outdoor space would be nice. We had a project last year where we created a community garden in the front of our building, and the kids were just over the moon that they were able to plant seeds, that they were able to see those seeds be transplanted, that we're now starting to get some of those, spring flowers coming back up, some of those perennials, and the kids are proud of it. They walk by it every day. They were part of it. So again, those kinds of things, like it's just, that's something that I feel really strongly about, is having these opportunities for kids to learn about, more about nature and spend more time.
Yep. Get them outside.
Yeah.
Get them outside. All right. Anybody, Commission good? Any more questions, comments? Let me take a quick look here if anybody have any public commentaries. I see some names up there. Nope. All right. Let's close the hearing on Lincoln Street School. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote to close the hearing. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Gouldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And now we're looking for a negative determination for Lincoln Street School. Any conditions, Vinnie?
I don't think so. We don't really even need erosion controls on this, just because this is a berm that goes up in this area here. We're probably going to have erosion controls across here so it doesn't spread, but they don't want their material to be flowing away either. It costs more money, so that's why I'm not too worried about this project at all. I can't think of any unless anyone else.
No. I mean, it's at the very edge of the jurisdictional areas anyway, right? So,
Yes, yes.
okay, so we're voting on a negative determination for Lincoln Street School.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Justin. Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes,
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. You're off and running, Justin.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to do something and help the design on that. That was fun.
I feel sorry for the kids though, because that's a perfect place to go run and play and get wet and just got to stay out of the street. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the RDAs. We have a request time extension for an order of conditions for 0 Bartlett Street. Do we have anybody on the line for that? I don't recognize any names there.
Is it Scott Weiss possibly?
I see Scott Weiss and Scott Weiss, not Sean Barrett though, right?
Sean Barrett.
Scott Weiss.
That's
Yeah,
familiar.
Scott's
I
got his
don't
hand
remember.
up. Let's bring him in. Okay, he'll be joining us momentarily. And Finn Barrett. Hello, Scott.
Evening, everyone. Thank you.
Scott, is Finn-
I am
is
the
Finn-
only one. I am the
is-
only one
yes.
here representing this.
Oh, okay, so
effort.
Finn
So I
Barrett's
don't
not
know
on
the
your
others.
team. Okay,
No, Finn is the Eagle Scout. coming
that's
at the
right.
end of
Okay,
the
had a
meeting.
hand up. Hand is now down. Okay, welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you.
So 0 Bartlett Street, you want to extend out, huh?
Yes, after obtaining all but one of our permits, we did have a delay. We are working through that now with the planning board. And believe we're coming to a resolution, so we kind of would like to restart the clock and have an extension and hopefully get this project rolling.
Any questions from the commission on this one? No comments, questions, concerns?
Nope, just the background is the plan was originally approved almost 3 years ago. It expires in July of this year.
Yep.
But it was designed according to the current standards, so it's not a reduction. So they would-
1525, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
25 and 35 now, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, historically, with the commission, at least the one that, as long as I've been on it, has granted extensions for orders of conditions, especially when it's outside of your control. Some of the issues that caused it. So, we will. Do we have to close the hearing here, Vinny, or is this just a request? This is not a public hearing, is it?
We had it listed in the public hearings, but it doesn't require a public hearing.
Okay.
All right.
Greg, are there anybody there is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Then I would move to grant the extension.
Second,
Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
I think my company might be somewhat involved, Greg. I think we might be
Okay.
doing traffic on this one, so I
Alright.
will recuse myself.
fair enough. Diane Goldner,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. You are extended.
Feeling very extended already.
go.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, Todd, I had the public screen on the entire time looking for people to pop up, looking for hands. So you know, oh boy. All right, that's the total of the public hearing. We have a couple informal discussions and then a COC request. Forest cutting plan, RFQ. We're an update, Vinny?
Yes, this is just an update that the scope of services was sent out requesting quotes from 7 foresters. And I've heard back from 2 that are not interested. So hopefully we'll get some response back from the other 5. I plan on calling them next week just to make sure there's interest. So we get at least a few responses to choose from. And I also sent in some comments that we got from the Trails Committee. So wasn't sure if you wanted to discuss those or if you wanted to give me direction and I can discuss it with the Trails. It's up to you. I don't know if they're here, if anyone's here.
There's nobody here from Trails. No, nobody has hand up.
On the Trails Committee, why don't we just have them come to a meeting? And we can answer all their questions.
Yes, I will invite them, and their meeting was last Monday. I had a conflict with the Open Space Committee, so it may have been that if I were there, I could have addressed it. So I will respond to their note, their concerns, and let them know what we can do. Actually, Dan gave me some ideas of how to address it. So I'll probably pass my ideas along through Dan and then make sure they're scientifically sound and then talk to the Trails Committee folks.
I think they'd probably be most interested once we have somebody chosen and we start getting involved with the specifics of how it gets done. But
yes. Yeah, I think that's their biggest concern. And I'm not sure if the commission may want to consider inviting a member from the Trails Committee to any of the discussions for writing and reviewing the cutting plan. We're going to put it out at one of our meetings. We're going to advertise and let people know we're doing it. So we're going to get the public comment, but if they want to get like, as much of a crack at it as anybody else, as myself or any of you members, we can invite someone or a couple of them to join in. And I can always forward the drafts off to them. That's easy enough to keep them informed because they actually had a couple of good ideas that I think we'll be able to use in the first meeting that we had when Dan and Tom and I walked with them.
no, I think having them at the hip wouldn't be a bad thing. No. Okay, Dan Clark, do we have any open space issues here, or is this really more trails, do you think?
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I know that, the Trails is a subcommittee of the Open Space Committee. But that being said, I think, I don't think the open space has any issues with this. I mean, not that I'm aware of. I'd be reluctant to invite lots of people to review things. I think I would reassure them that there's plenty of opportunities for public comment at many different stages. I just don't know if having lots and lots of reviewers is necessarily the way to go, but that's my opinion. So, and I think it would be helpful if they wanted to, they could come to before all this, if they wanted to come to one of these meetings, we could discuss it as well. I think that's probably the best course of action. And then again, there are lots of opportunities along the way to provide feedback or raise concerns or whatever they might have to offer.
Okay.
Fair enough. So we could invite them next month, Vinny, especially if it's a light agenda, which it probably would. Well, I don't want to jinx it, so.
I can invite them. I mean, that sounds good.
Okay. 20 West Street, Mr. Knox, I believe he is on the phone. Bob, do you want to come into the meeting here? Raise your hand. Maybe he's just listening. Any update? Let's update that, Vinny, for the group.
Yes, well, I've gone through and updated the contract or the potential lease. And again, same as last month, but we didn't have a big turnout last month. So we're trying to get feedback on whether the commission is even, or what land uses are acceptable to the commission on town-owned conservation land, which this is. There's a history that it's been used the way it currently is for 25, 30 years. So it is a special case. And there's a condition or a situation where there's a lease currently out for Bigelow to do gardening and growing of plants. So the precedent is there to have a lease on town-owned conservation land. And I'm just trying to get feedback on how to make this work for this one, if it's something the commission wants to have done.
Yeah, and I know from the last meeting minutes, I mean, Todd and Tom seemed to be in favor and Dan had some concerns. Justin and Diane, you weren't here for that discussion. Let's start with you. Do you have any comments or thoughts on extending a lease agreement forward in this one? I'm recused from this, from voting, so.
Is there a time limit on it? Considering
Yes, it would be a 2-year lease. Each time would be a 2-year lease. It would be renewable, is the way it's currently written. And as part, he said no matter what, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, as part of this leasing, he has, like we all are in our yards, in our house, in our garage, he's spread out to the space that you have. So he's willing and intending, and has actually since last October, November, pulled things in tighter and gotten away from the sprawl that has happened there, and has removed a whole bunch of materials and things that have were just piled out in the areas. So part of it is to clean up the area that's the town-owned land, and to provide him with a specified lease area at a certain cost with certain uses. So generally the idea, he's got a garden and fruit trees, and I don't know that there'd be much discussion or dissension on allowing that. The issues that would be of concern or are questionable are the parking of vehicles, 3 trucks, I guess, and 3 trailers for Westwood. I forget the name, but it's a landscaping group. And so they'd be parking those out there, and he has a couple of storage containers. They're not permanent buildings, but they're temporary structures. And he's intending to take one of them down, but there'll still be one up. And he needs turnaround and parking space for 3 employees and no more. So I think those are the items. If Mr. Knox needs to correct me, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah.
But it's generally the idea of having parking and storing vehicles and like a mower and other equipment out there covered, but still stored.
Give Bob Knox and bringing you into the meeting.
There he is.
Can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me?
Hear you.
Okay, I just unmuted. I'm not sure why I don't have video, but yeah, so the only thing I would add to that is yeah, as Vinny's correct, and we're very small. I'm at the end, no, I wouldn't say the end of my career, but in the later stages of it, and there's no intention to grow the business. No one, so we've limited. We've limited what we do. We don't do tree work. We don't do any plowing. We don't do although I have a plow on my truck just to take care of my 91-year-old mother. Mother's home. I don't do any of that for monumental gain. So it's really the services that we do are limited to grass cutting, mulching, and trimming shrubs. We do some commercial properties, but the majority is local residential homes. And with regards to the property, as has been said, we've been working to pull it in, and we'll continue to do that. This will afford me some time to do it. It's written into the lease as to what needs to be done when. So I've had a chance to review that. It seems very, it's something that I can accomplish, and that's about it that I can say. Moving forward, I know you've all heard much of the history, some minor variations on that, but nothing that I think we need to raise now. That's all been discussed in previous meetings. If there's any questions for me, that's why I came on. I've been watching these meetings and remotely, and figured it would be a good time before you vote if there was anything you needed to ask of me.
So what I'm looking for is the commission's ideas or thoughts of, should we move ahead with the lease? And I can continue to write it. I can have it drafted probably for the next meeting if you're okay with the uses.
What was the term? Where did you come up with the term length again? Because I thought the sample you had sent was like 1 year renewable, or
I saw that one of them expired on 2025 is all I remember. There was a date on the lease for Bigelow that I think it was a 2-year, and I think the one that I sent out to you had a 2-year time frame on it as well. But
yeah, I mean, one thing we could do is make it basically have it renewed every year.
Yeah.
I forget. We're not we're not charging for this, right?
That was to be determined. Yep, they did charge for the Bigelow.
So for myself, this seems like an accident of history. I'm willing to do this, limiting the uses, have it renewable on a annual basis. Therefore, we can, if we don't like what's going on, or we get complaints, or somebody tells us it's a terrible idea, we can stop it on an annual basis when it comes up for renewal. I don't know whether we could even charge for this without an RFP. I don't think we can just set a rate. I don't know whether going back to the Bigelow one, which that goes back 100 years too. I don't know whether they actually may have done something else then. I don't know. But those are sort of my thoughts on it.
Well, that's good. I didn't even think about the idea of charging for having to go through the procurement process.
My opinion hasn't changed. I can't support this. I just, like I said last time, I think it's a bad idea just based on principle alone, that essentially if, an encroachment is discovered and the landowner asks, we would give them permission to use town-owned land. Doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Diane, what do you think?
It's a hard decision. I'm trying to think what other towns do, because I know this is not something unique to us. And there's been some other times when we've had to face this. I still remember how we handled it particularly. lots of times it turns out to be no, because we don't have enough information to really make it an honest and decent decision.
Okay. Justin, thoughts?
Yeah, I guess in my mind, you know, I'm kind of a little bit on the other side of the fence from Dan. You know, I know when I was just I think when this first came up and we were flipping through really, you know, historic aerials, you know, at first I was like, kind of no way, you know, like how could this happen? But then just seeing how long, you know, it's been in place for, and, you know, I think we flipped back maybe 20 years, you know, maybe over 20 years or so of aerials, and it's been like this. And I feel like now we have an opportunity to kind of hone it in, tighten it up a little bit, you know, have some mitigation done. You know, I think there was some piles moved already and some things done already, and now we'll have, you know, more control over it and have eyes on it. I like Todd's idea about, you know, the once a year, because then it's coming up, we can get a look at it, make sure nothing's expanding. And, you know, I think that when Mr. Knox is done with his business, I think at that point, you know, we would terminate the lease and end it at that time, and we wouldn't, you know, continue it on with somebody else or somebody new. But I guess I'm just, you know, kind of a little bit on the other side of the fence from Dan on this, and kind of going a little bit more with Todd, and the fact that, you know, if we have some controls and we're looking at it yearly, you know, I think that's a good approach moving forward.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm recused from this. I'm not going to vote on it, but I mean, I can see both arguments. I said this last time. It's not an easy one. I'm concerned about establishing a precedent. On the other hand, Todd's idea of an annual review does give some control to the commission on that side.
So, I mean, it sounds like we got to move this to next month anyway, because, I mean, potentially we're at a deadlock now anyway. 2-2 can't do anything anyway. And we can see again what the other two have to say if they're here.
Just a quick practical question on the lease itself. Number 10. That didn't make any sense to me. It says members of the public shall have access to premises except as necessary to prevent damage to the trees, shrubs, and vegetables. Is that sentence correct?
That's taken from the Bigelow lease, and it's generally the idea that it's town-owned land. So if someone wanted to walk in there, they'd be able to walk around as long as they're not damaging or creating a problem, is what I think the intent of that was at the Bigelow site. I just took it and had it in this one because we're not going to limit public access onto the property. This is only a portion of the lot. It's what I was mentioning with Mr. Knox, is we might be able to just do a radius of 150 feet from the corner of his lot that would enclose all the areas where he's going to do alteration in the future. Currently he's beyond that, but it's pulling him back in another probably 50 feet in some spots, and he's willing to do that. But it's town-owned property, so we wouldn't want to prohibit the use of the public on the other portion. It's not the premises. Does that make sense?
So the public can access the property, but they can't go on the part that he's using.
Correct. Right.
Well, that adds to my argument. Now you're excluding the public from public property. So,
well, that's not unique.
Well, for a private individual, it sure is.
But
So we're going to push this to next month. Hopefully we'll have more of a contingent here, and we can maybe close it one way or the other. That. So.
Yeah. I mean, and Mr. Knox has been really good. He's already started doing the work for the restoration that we're looking for. So I think putting it off for, it's only a couple of weeks now anyway.
Only a couple weeks actually, yeah.
I think it works out fine.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we shut this one down, Mr. Knox?
No, I'm good. I'll attend the next meeting so that I can see where this goes, and we'll wait till then.
Super.
Thank
Super.
you
Thanks for your cooperation.
for hearing me, and we'll talk to you next month.
Okay,
It's
good
a
night.
couple of weeks. It's a short time. So
Yes, April 10th.
April 10th, you got it.
Got it. Thanks, guys.
Very
Have a
good.
good-
Thank you. Okay. All right. We got that. The Whitney Street. Well, sorry, Pleasant Street,
No.
Whitney Home Builders has an order, has a certificate of compliance for 156162.
Yes,
Whitney.
this one, do we have James Tatro, if anyone?
We do not. Oh, wait a second. A hand just went up. It's just a phone number. Going to allow them to talk.
Sean Barrett.
Okay, I
I'll
think
pull up the screen.
Hello, sorry.
there we go.
So yeah, this, Mr. Chairman, these are a couple of lots where the work was actually done a few years ago. And we had to do a few things to finish out the requirements of the order back then, including adding the signs off of the wetland that's on the north end of the property.
Yeah, but, just one second, but for folks that may not be familiar, these are what? There's 3 houses here.
There's 2 houses in question.
question,
Numbers
but-
1.
yeah.
Yep.
It's right on the corner of Pleasant Street, a Big Bend, right? A Big Bend, and then
Correct. There are actually 4 houses total. But numbers 156 and 162 were the only ones with work in the buffer zone.
And is this James Tatro?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't recognize the phone number.
Recognize the voice. Yeah, okay.
It's at
All right.
home. Sorry.
Continue with what's going on here, please.
Sure. So work was done back, I believe, 2 and 3 years ago on these lots. It was not finished in a couple respects, which were primarily was that the signs had not been added at the off of the wetland, indicating that anybody doing any work was approaching the wetland. So we added those in. I know we were within the 50-foot separation between them because we just picked the wetland flags in question that would get us within that distance. But those are out there now. The work is all buttoned up. Everything is stable. So we requested the issuance of certificate of compliance, and Mr. Vignali pointed out that we should ask. We had initially requested for 162 because that homeowner is selling, who's been there a couple years, and their lawyer correctly saw, wait a minute, there's something here on the title that hasn't been addressed. And we sent in first a request just for 162, and Mr. Vignali said, well, why don't you do 156 while you're at it, because that's in the same boat.
Vinny, what do you think? You've seen it?
Yeah, and I was out there. I've been out there a couple of times. The outstanding issues were to put the signs in, which are behind these trees, but he's got the signs in the right place, and he's got enough of them. They all go around the corner here up to the house. 162 is at the end of this driveway behind me in the photo, and this is 156, which is right along the street. So the issues that were raised were the signs were needed, a guardrail needed to be put in place, and there was a condition on the in the order of conditions that talked about drainage from the driveway not being directly discharging into the wetlands. So what they have is a low point here where it flows through this vegetated area and slope. And then there's another 25 feet or 30 feet of flat vegetation before you get to the wetland. So there's really nowhere else to go with the drainage. You can't put it that way into its foundation. So I think he's met all the conditions of the order of conditions.
Super. Okay. Any questions, concerns from the commission?
Is it time to take that silt fence out?
I'd say it's past time. Yes.
Should he have that?
There are some bits of silt fence, yes.
Can we get that out of there?
Yes.
Yes, I wasn't, the conditions say that they don't pull the silt fence until after the order is issued, is what they kind of say, but I always like
Okay.
it whenever it's stable, but I didn't want to push it too much.
Looks like it's not doing anything anyway. It's collapsed.
It is not, you're
Not
correct.
now.
Yeah.
Any other comments, the commission? No? All right, then we need to approve a certificate of compliance for 156 and 162 Pleasant Street.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call vote. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes,
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And
Thank you very much for your consideration, everyone.
very good. And you'll get that silt fence out there, James, yes?
I'm going to send an email out right now to Whitney Street Home Builders to do so.
Thank you. All
Thank
right. That is it. The agenda, we got a couple of items here, like 2 items. The MAC conference. I went and saw and took a couple of courses. Dan, you went, didn't you? Did you
Yeah,
go
I
to?
saw some really good ones. Yeah.
Which one did you see?
I did, I actually know him. I took a class with him when I was at UMass. His name's Scott Jackson. He's still at
Yeah, I was-
UMass.
Yeah.
He is just a fantastic speaker, but he talked about culvert replacements and how to do it. And it was really, really good. It's really well
Yep.
done.
Yep.
I'm waiting for the recording because I want to share it with a bunch of my staff, get them to watch it. So,
Yeah, I've taken a number of courses from him before. In fact, I took one this time just because he was a lead. He's an attraction. He was on farming and associated requirements and how it balances with wetlands protection and so forth. It was very, very well done. So,
Yep.
Yep. I also took a course in hydrology, which was interesting but pretty technical.
Wow.
So,
Yep.
you know, once you say
Groundwater
formula,
mounding.
I see formulas coming up and saying, hey, you know, come on. That was a while ago. So, oh, good. Anybody else go? Justin, did you go?
No.
Diane, you didn't go?
no.
Tom,
I wonder
did
if
you go?
anybody took the one on the indigenous parties and natives. That was one that interested me. Was how you would combine that, but no, I did not go this year.
The plan is next year they want to go back live. They want to go back in person is their goal, I believe. So
Good.
that's it. Good.
Did either of you that attended get an invoice? Because I haven't received an invoice for it yet.
No, I did not.
Because the commission will cover it if you get something, just forward it along.
Okay.
all right.
Second item I have is term renewals. We get 2 commissioners up for term renewal. One is Justin. I think you put your papers in, Justin. And Tom's the other one. Tom's also put his papers in. So that's good news, I think. Both parts there too.
Yes.
We've got a pretty well, in my opinion, we got a pretty well balanced commission. So I think it's important to keep the folks we have there. Anybody have anything that they want to bring up they've seen or?
The Eagle Scout project?
Oh, geez. You got it. My
all
goodness.
right.
Poor kid's been hanging on here. Finn, I'm going to bring you in. I didn't write it down on my little piece here. That's the problem. Finn Barrett. There is Finn
Hello.
Barrett. And he unmuted himself too. God, this is great, you know.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Finn. Can you hear us? See us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Super. So you hung in here for almost an hour and a half. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, so I have a short presentation, if that's all right. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. Might take me a moment. Here we are. Alrighty. Can you all see the presentation?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so my project is the Water Chestnut Awareness Project. So in case any of you do not know, just really quick, water chestnut It's an invasive species to the Aspet, Concord, Sudbury rivers. Grows on top of the river surface, grows very rapidly, and it's very hazardous to the health of the rivers. My project, I have partnered with OARS, which is a group dedicated to maintaining the health of these rivers. Particularly, they've had a hand in helping with eradicating water chestnut. And for my Eagle project, I've partnered with OARS to plant signs near some well-traveled boat launches around these rivers, kind of just in all the different towns, really. The signs, I'll show you some rough draft or some drafts of them in a moment, but the signs basically, they inform people a little bit about water chestnut, and they have a QR code that links them to some, I think it's the OARS's website, where they can also find an app that allows them to report water chestnut findings. The app also teaches them how to pull out water chestnut so they can do it themselves. And they can also track if they found water chestnut in a particular area. When they found it, they can tell the app that they've also pulled it out if they do that. So the sign that I would like to place in Northborough is at the Michael P. Yellick Conservation Area, because a lot of people use that space, as I'm aware, boaters, kayakers, fishermen, I don't know. If you see the image over there, I would like to place the sign sort of like next to the road, or sorry, not the road, but like the path that leads to the two launches, either of the two. Preferably, it's the one that I've indicated there, because I've heard that it's more used. Yeah, and so now here are some examples. So that's the sign design that I got that I was given today. There's an inflated version of the QR code in case you'd like to scan it. I believe it leads to their website. And then that's just an image of a parking sign, and that's sort of the general material structure that the sign would be made out of. That's about it. I'd like to, just, if I'm allowed, to answer any questions that you all may have.
Sure. Is the installation pretty easy, Reed, or do you need army people to get this into the grounds, or does it?
It's not too difficult. I'll probably have a few other scouts with me to just hammer in the sign. You get like a very long U-channel post, and you just hammer it into the ground, basically. It's pretty simple.
Vinny, what about, did we talk about maybe a second location, and that being maybe Watson Park?
Yes, we talked about that. This is trying to see if have you seen this plant? And I think from talking to Fred after I talked to you, he said it's pretty well known that Bartlett Pond has this in it as an invasive, but I think it would be good for education and possibly to help do some harvesting all summer long.
Sure.
Yeah.
Reed, what do you think about a second location?
I think Mr. Vignali might have mentioned a second location at I forget the name of the pond.
It's Bartlett.
Bartlett.
Yeah,
Pond.
Bartlett Pond.
Yes. Yeah.
That is like a very interesting proposition. So the signs, they cost about, I'd say, $100 each, rough estimate. So if we can get enough funds raised for that extra sign, I'd be happy to place one there. It really is just a matter of fundraising and, of course, permission.
Yeah, I think we've gotten support from the town's end. So as far as permission, that should be okay. I can confirm it with the DPW, but I don't think it's conservation land, but I think the town water district or so owns it. But currently the town hires a consultant or a contractor to go out there and do treatment for invasives. So if we, any little bit of help we can get, it makes sense.
Any questions from the commission? Comments?
That used to be Wayne's.
The
Wayne.
Wayne Baldelli. The Wayne Baldelli.
Yes, Wayne did not like water
crusade.
chestnuts.
That's
But besides that, if you are out on the river and you do, or a pond and you do find these, what's the disposal requirements? What do you do with what you found if you pull it out?
That is a very good question. I believe you can either like take it home with you. There might be a thing that Oars was going to do where they can pick it up themselves. I'm honestly just not sure. It might be on their website.
They give you instructions if you scan that QR code. I just did it. They tell you how to dispose of it. Yeah, I am surprised that I'd be curious. I wonder how many people actually do that.
Yeah.
Harvest and dispose of it. I imagine the identifying part probably gets a lot more attention than the removal. But
Yeah, Ms. Field Juma, my main contact at Oars, told me a story. First, like they had noticed that the level of water chestnut was had rapidly decreased, and they didn't really have an explanation why in this area. And one day they were out surveying one of the rivers, and there was this guy just hand pulling out a bunch of water chestnut. Turns out he had been doing it for years, and he was the reason the level of water chestnut was going down. Wow. So that's really one of the main reasons for this app, is so they can have better information and understand why the level of water chestnut is going down, if it is.
And actually, I'm not sure what your sign needs are, but I talked to the Trails Committee and they have a kiosk. If that would be helpful to post it in the kiosk or on the kiosk, we can talk to the Trails Committee folks. If that's something you're interested in, let me know and I can get you the email of the appropriate person.
Yeah. I think, if I recall, the kiosk is more for paper objects. So the metal sign would probably go on its own freestanding post.
Okay. Yep. And I think he said there's an existing post that's out there that you might be able to mount right onto as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I saw it. I remember seeing that.
But
Reed, how many communities are you going in front of?
Oh, I think there's quite a few. We originally started with about 9 signs. There's been 2 groups, including you guys, that have requested an additional sign. We've had contact with the Fish and Wildlife Service. Remember Westboro, Concord, I want to say Lincoln. Yeah, just a whole bunch of communities.
Vinny, we don't vote this, right? This is just a matter of an update for us. Any concerns we have, comments?
well, yeah, he's doing work within the jurisdiction of the wetlands.
Oh, okay, we should then vote it.
But putting
Okay.
a sign up is a de minimis thing. I
Okay.
could have approved it, but I've had past experience with Eagle Scouts, and it's always good to get the visibility and have a presentation so the whole commission knows what's going on. And when you
Yep.
see it, you're aware of it and can let other people know.
Okay, let me check for public comment. I don't see any hands up. Anybody have a question, comment, or concern from the commission?
How often will you have to report to your town's what is happening and what successes or failures you've had.
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
If you are out there or you have scouts out there doing this, pulling these chestnuts, or you know of people who are you going to back to the individual towns where each thing has happened and report what's happening? I mean, it's nice to put up the signs and have people do it, but what's the end result of it is having some idea of how good or bad this was.
Well, that's a good question. I think that falls under Ors's job. My work with this project is putting up the signs first and foremost.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Hello, committee. I'll add one point to that. I'm Sean Barrett. I'm Finn's father and his scoutmaster. Part of the ORS app for this allows participants who are pulling water chestnut to report how much they pulled, where, and when. And so ORS will be able to track those locations across all of the towns on all three rivers. Whether they choose to report that back to the towns or not, as Finn mentioned, that's kind of ORS's purview.
If we were interested, we could probably contact ORS and get an update from them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Super. Okay. Let's vote this then. So we're voting to approve the placement of one sign at the Yellow Conservation Area. Would we want to add something along the lines of with the potential for a second sign at Watson Park, there, Bartlett Pond, given funding? Something along those lines.
That sounds good. Yep.
Okay, we need a motion.
So move. Beat ya.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Dan Clark,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Very good. Thank you for your efforts, Finn.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
And
Good
you
luck.
know
Thank you so
Vinny,
much.
so any questions you have, Vinny's around to certainly help out. So
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for your time.
all right, thanks for hanging in there.
Have a good night.
Yeah, have a good night. How do I?
All right. We still there?
Nope, he's off.
He's off. Okay. Okay. I don't see anybody. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I think I probably touched something I couldn't. I shouldn't have. Let me try that. That's okay. Anything else, Vinny, before we move on?
Nope, our next
For
meeting.
12 days or whatever it is, 13 days, whatever.
Yes, yeah, a couple of weeks, but yes. Yeah, April 10th, Monday, April 10th is our next meeting. If anyone knows they've got a conflict, let me know, and hopefully we'll be all set and get a quorum.
Okay. All right.
I just have one quick question before we close. I keep driving by. I always drive down Barefoot and I head towards 290 right there. I think it's still Hudson Street or Solomon Pond Road. Maybe it turns into right there. But that site, we approved it, a few years ago for, we looked at it for daycare, and then I think it changed to something else. They went in and put all kinds of erosion controls, like kind of wrapping all through the whole site. So silt fence everywhere out there. Have you heard, like, are they going to do anything, or is that silt fence? Like, I feel like it just looks like a mess in there.
New ones, just or there's an old fence because they had some old fencing up.
It's like, it's just silt fence that kind of just
wanders
goes
around
all
in
through
there.
the whole site. And it seems like, maybe they were about to start some construction or start to do something, and then nothing ever happened, but all the silt fence is all still out there.
Do you know which property it is? Is it the 5 Barefoot Road? That if it is that one that had the daycare that then has now changed over to being a group home, They're
Yeah,
nowhere near the wetlands, so they should be taking that silt fence out.
yeah.
I know the redesign that we approved moved everything outside the jurisdiction.
Yes.
I could give you what I could do. Maybe since our next meeting's only in a couple weeks, I could take a couple pictures out there or something too, just because I drive by it all the time. But it's just, it seems like it's everywhere throughout that site right now.
But just send me a map with an X on it, or just say it's this parcel and get the off the town's website on the GIS.
Okay.
Let me know what the lot is, and then I'll take a look at it. I'm sure if you can see it from the road, I'll be able to see it when I go out there. I've got oh, it's not Barefoot, it's Bartlett. We got the pre-construction meeting for 200 Bartlett Street coming up tomorrow at 10 in the morning.
Oh
So
yeah,
they're
you'll
starting
see
that.
this. All you have to do is drive down Barefoot, and you'll see it all out there.
Very last property before you hit Hudson Street.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is. Before
I'll
Hudson.
send you something right now, Vinny. I've got it up on an aerial. I'll just send it over so you remember.
Yep, yeah, that's always good.
What's happening on Hudson Street with that building where they're tearing down parts of? Whatever it is.
Tearing down.
Oh, yeah, it's the construction. It's the company that does the. They're on the corner of Hudson and
River.
what is it? River Street.
Hudson and River.
Yeah, it's the one that they're doing over the river. They're going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I met with them a month or so ago, and they were gonna, when their contractor had their plan for the demolition, he was gonna contact me. You're telling me that they started the demolition already, or?
Yes.
No, well, they haven't contacted me, so I will follow up on that one.
Yeah. It's right across from where the stream goes under.
Well, the stream goes right next. That's what the problem. The demolition was the bank of the stream. The existing wall is the bank of the brook that's out there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anybody else may think that they've seen? Okay. Vinny, any last thoughts you have before we close down?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Oh, and thank you for your help. Terrific. And Melanie, thank you for your high quality minutes as usual. So we'll look forward to the next set. Oh. Okay. Motion to adjourn is needed.
So moved. Pretty slow at that.
Is there maybe you want to stick around for a while more? Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Dan Clark.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Diane Gouldner.
Yes.
Todd Hellwig.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Very good. Thanks, folks. We will see you in a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Night.
Excellent.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.